Hey guys, and welcome back. This is ChosenArchitect, and today we're jumping back into some more mechanical mastery, and I hope you guys are ready. So I feel like today is going to be a big day, and there's probably going to be a lot that is going to be finished today. Well, that requires us to get into several different mods. Last episode, we ended up pretty much automating the basic mechanical essence, and this was a process that required us to have multiple machines. However, I know I'm not doing it as efficiently as I probably should be doing it, as we were seeing an abundance of copper rods in here. And what I would need to do to fix this is I would have to up my aluminum gear production and my iron gear production to just basically double what I currently have, and then it would be maximized, which is something we'll probably end up doing here soon. But for right now, it is just generating EMC. You can see we're already at 500,000, which is quite a lot of EMC, specifically early on. Now, today, some things unlock. We've now completed the tier 1 thermal section. And when I say completed, we've pretty much done the main required task for this. However, we are now moving into the tier 2, which is create and immersive engineering. And this, I think, is going to unlock a lot of new stuff. Specifically, getting into create. This gives us all kinds of new things. Access to quartz, access to all of the different mechanics that create offers. And that is quite a lot. So we'll end up basically creating power from nothing, and we're able to smelt all of our ores, crush all of our ores, pretty much coming from nothing, really. Water? Yeah, the power of water moving over water wheels. So this is going to be quite extensive, and I cannot wait to dive into create. So without further ado, I guess we might as well get started and make ourselves some andesite and andesite alloy. Now, early on, andesite is done with the high covalence dust, and we do have a bit of this, but this is coal and gold. Gold's not the cheapest thing in the world to make, but we do have a little bit of it for right now, and that's probably going to be enough to get us started. So 32 andesite. And then we need to combine that with either iron, or we can actually use zinc. However, I don't recommend using zinc. Zinc, as you can see right here, costs significantly more to grab out than iron does. We'll be using zinc later, but for right now, I think just using regular old iron nuggets is still the best option here. And so I've just got to make some iron nuggets, and we should have access to just about everything here. This is going to really start progressing pretty quick. So let's get our nuggets, and we can actually just do it inside of this crafting grid. And we split them, and there we go. We get andesite alloy. Perfect. And that is all of our 32. So 16. That's not going to get us very far, but thankfully we get given a couple. And then kelp has EMC, so we're definitely going to need to throw that in here and probably pull some out and just throw some into our smelter here. We want to get this worked up and get things smelted up. Now, setting up for the create mod, we are going to need a little bit of power, and getting started early on, I think using these sort of cells, separating them off, which I've gone ahead and built here, should be just enough space. It's enough space for 5 water wheels to fit in here, and 5 is like the perfect amount, I do believe. It's like the amount before you start running into stress issues. So we'll have 5 here, and 10 in this. This is going to be powering some crushing wheels that are going to get set up here soon. And so this is actually going to be powered, and they're going to be rotating into each other, and it's actually kind of the perfect way to set up the crushing wheels. So let's go ahead and get that going. I have just about everything I think I need. Plus it gives me all of these cog wheels, which is quite fantastic because I can just make a bunch of water wheels. And so we're going to need about 20 water wheels. I have 16 cogs, so we almost have enough for this whole thing. I've just got to make a few more of these, which just require the shafts, as you can see. So I can go ahead and make 4 more, which is what we're going to need, and get all the water wheels we'll need for quite a while, actually. So I'll just get the water wheels all placed in like so. Very, very straightforward here. However, this is not as straightforward because I'm going to have to choose what direction I want these actual water wheels to be flowing in. And I remember I wanted it going this way. So this is actually the opposite of what I need. So I have to hold shift to get them to place in the appropriate way. And then this side, I believe, will be correct when done like that. And there we go. So all we have to do is when we're inside here, we should be able to place down material. And I'm going to go ahead and set the outer wall here, like so. So that way we can get the water running on the outer edge and it's going to flow into the center. And then with everything blocked up as we go, it'll also flow underneath on both sides. And the same sort of premise is going to be on this side as well. We are going to have to block this off and then place the water in and make sure we're placing it on the appropriate side. So with this facing this way, we're going to want the water flowing right here. And so I can actually go ahead and get that started by just grabbing some water and start placing it in. As you can see, we have these things now spinning. And of course, ignore the fact that there is water down there, as we're going to end up blocking that in, and it's not going to cause us any problems. But we now have mechanical rotation, and we have control of some power, and we can start using this to do things like smelting without the cost of coal and all kinds of other useful things. So as you can see, this may not be the most effective way of doing it, but it does get the job done. As you can see, it's spinning at the same pace, all the water's flowing through, and we should have some power here, enough to power some crushing wheels. Now that I have the space prepped up for create, well, it's now time to get into the nitty-gritty of it. And that is going to be making the crushing wheels. These are the most important part, I think. So if we take a look here at create, the crushing wheels normally require you to go through a process of making brass. And that process requires mixing and having a heater and all that fun stuff. Well, we don't actually have to do that, believe it or not. We can actually get by with just using our induction smelter and using zinc ingots and copper to make brass. And that's the way I'm going to go about doing this. And that's really nice because that means we can jump straight into it. And so we just need some zinc and we need some copper, not bauxite, copper. Getting that all smelted up shouldn't take too long. Let's see. I'm going to probably, I have all of this crushing, by the way, coal. I'm so excited. I'll be able to actually move to create to crush things. Oh, that's going to be so much nicer. But, for right now, I'm just going to have to get this all smelted up. And then we're going to put it into our induction smelter, which is this bad boy right here. And all we have to do is just wait for it to turn it all into the good brass that we need. Now to move forward with everything, we are going to need quartz. To be able to actually make the crushing wheels, quartz is going to be necessary. So to get that, we actually get some soul sand right here. And this is kind of nice. So we can take this little bit of soul sand that we have, and we're going to use that to make a fan. Or not make a fan, but we're going to use this to actually make a soul campfire? Yeah. So if we make ourselves a soul campfire with this, this is going to allow us to do some interesting things with sand. So as you can see, the soul variant of this can cook things. It doesn't necessarily show it right here. I think maybe soul sand has to be showed. It's called haunting. And I was hoping that it would actually show with the fan. It probably does, with like just the actual create fan. Now, thankfully in my quest, we actually get access to soul sand. So this allows us to be able to haunt things with create, which is a whole thing in itself. And you can actually use a soul campfire. We'll get into that, I think, here in a minute. But one of the first things I definitely need to get my hands on is a wrench, because we are going to need this to make the encased fan. To make the encased stuff, there's a little trick that I like to show that should allow us to do this quite quick. So we're going to need some andesite alloy, and then we're going to need some logs. So if we place down a nice amount of logs, doesn't matter what orientation they're in, and then we go ahead and I was going to say maybe we can do multiples at once. But if we go ahead and convert all of these, we can then put the andesite alloy in our main hand and have the wrench in the offhand, I think. And then we can just hold down shift and just right click really fast. So you don't have to go through here and manually break all of these blocks. It just makes it a whole lot easier to get these casings early on. Now to move forward after making the encased fan, I need to go ahead and get a setup going so I can get nether quartz. I can't actually progress into the crushing wheels until we have nether quartz. So to get nether quartz, well, we simply wash soul sand, which is not a terrible process since we can EMC soul sand that we get via our quest down here. Soul sand's gonna be used for a couple of things. I believe it's also used to make cinder flour. No, that's netherrack, which is used to make cinder flour. But this is gonna be an alternative way of getting redstone, and it's really cheap. It's only 1 EMC, basically. I believe. Let's see, how much is netherrack? It's only 1 EMC. So you're guaranteed. So it's pretty much 1-to-1. You just have it going into a crushing wheel and it generates redstone. So that's a pretty darn good deal, I think. And it just needs to be washed. Now, right now, we just need to get a temporary washing setup going, and we can probably place that over here. Now, up until we get quartz, we won't really have a way of filtering things out with Create, so I want to rush that as soon as possible. And to do this, I'm going to use a mechanical belt to transfer power from here down to here, which gives us a nice little bit of rotation, and just simply place an encased fan and see what direction it's spinning. Good, it's going the correct way. It's pushing out, which is exactly what I want. Now, I'm going to place down some trapdoors right here, here, and here. And this is going to be our temporary source for our water. And this is going to be a little washing factory. Simply place down some water, and this is going to wash all of our soul sand. And that is going to get us quite a bit of quartz. So we can grab a few stacks of this out. And yeah, all we have to do is place it in here and just wait for it all to convert. So toss that all in there. And in enough time, this is all going to magically turn into quartz. Look, and I'm going to put emphasis on the magical part. And there it goes. So it is now all, like I said, magically converted into quartz and even a little bit of gold, which is kind of cool, kind of nifty. And I think it even accounted for the gold inside. Maybe that's why the soul sand is 12, specifically 12 EMC, because of the chance of getting nuggets and not creating an EMC farm with that. But we got a bunch of quartz, which I'm happy about. And that means I can now make rose quartz with our redstone. And we are going to need a little bit of this, specifically for crafting the mechanical crafters, but also making automated systems for this using belts and stuff like that. Now, in trying to move to the next step, I just realized I'm actually going to need a sawmill. Kind of out of the ball field here. I was not expecting that. But we have no way of getting paper. And there is a method of getting paper that involves sawdust. And to do that, we have to throw in some wood and it converts it down into, well, I guess a pulverizer could have worked as well. Actually, pulverizer might be the better option, but at least I have a sawmill, I guess. I'm going to go ahead and toss it in here to try and get as much of that as possible while I can. As you can see, I do have coal that's being processed. We're going to hopefully be able to switch that here soon and get this process a little less manual. But yeah, sawdust is how we're going to get sand, or how we're going to get paper, which is kind of an interesting process here. And with my lovely sandpaper, I can then put the rose quartz or the sandpaper in my offhand and get to rubbing things together. Yes, we're going to put this sandpaper to work, getting ourselves some rose quartz. And this is going to be pretty important with Create, probably even worth something automating down the road. Who knows? But now we have polished rose quartz, which is used for a lot of different things, as electron tubes are quite important in this mod. Now for brass casings, it's all the same method as before. I'm going to be using the axe, converting all of this down, and then all I have to do is hit it with some brass. And there we go. We have ourselves all of the brass casings we're going to need. I think we only needed, I believe, 8 of them for right now, but we can always use them for other things. So already we should have just enough. I think I need 7 of these exactly. But that's okay. I should have iron all prepped up over here, and that is going to be exactly enough. So the electron tubes, 7, and then that is going to lead us to the mechanical crafters, which we're just going to need 7 crafting tables for. So we need exactly 21 of these mechanical crafters, just like that. And now we can start the hard part, and that's making the crushing wheels. And just like that, it's all set up. Look at there. So with this all put together, all I have to do now is just sort of rotate the stuff together. I think I'm going to have it all export out here onto the side. And so just get everything sort of turned into itself. And then there's actually another part that I'm going to have to work on that should make this whole process a little bit easier. So to get this all spinning, I'm going to go ahead and hook up a belt down to the bottom here, and then simply add a cog, and that should get the whole thing up and spinning. I know it's pretty weird, but yeah, all of this is now working. Now, another thing that I can do is specifically for this craft, which is not 100% necessary, just makes it a little bit easier, is in the back, I can actually combine these areas together. And this does make it a little bit easier. So if I have all of these side connections together, and we take a look at the crushing wheels, we'll see that the recipe has all of these items. Well, if you have the sides together, it actually allows you to just simply right-click one andesite alloy, and it'll take all of them out of your inventory to fill all of this space, which makes the process a little bit easier, and also makes auto crafting a lot simpler for recipes such as this. Let's go ahead and get these bad boy crushing wheels made. And so all I have to do is remember, click that, and look, all of them appear on here. How cool is that? The middle is going to be stone, and then the outside 4, well, that is going to be wood, and it's going to all start pulling together just like this. Now it should end up putting itself into this barrel. I hope so, without needing a hopper or anything like that. So yeah, it fits in kind of nicely here, and I need this sort of out of the way, so that's why I put it up top here. But I still have no idea just yet what I'm going to do with this base. These are just sort of temp setups until I get a better understanding or get some better blocks. But there we go, a pair of giants we now have completed. So the crushing wheels, well, we should be able to just simply boop and boop. Well, almost. That's right, because I need to actually add a shaft to this side to make them even. But now they should be going in the appropriate direction. You can see right there, it says achievement made, a pair of giants, like I mentioned earlier. And now it's just a matter of, well, getting in the appropriate sort of setup here. So what I'm going to need to do is sort of line this up. Right here in the middle is actually a block space, but it allows us to place in things like a hopper, for example. And down here, we can also place in a hopper. So I'm going to set up a barrel down here. And well, I guess we can just put a barrel right up here. It's not really going to be too much in the way, but we can still access it. And then down here, we'll have a hopper for the completed products. And then we go ahead and remove this. That makes it sort of the easiest to interact with. And now when we pop in items, this is automated. Of course, you can do this with belts and other things, but for right now, hoppers should be able to get the job done. And this should allow us to send in a bunch of cobblestone. I think for right now, getting cobblestone converted into sand so I can have a nice little backlog of sand will be some of the nicest first early things to put in here. And it should start working. And before I know it, I'm going to start seeing gravel. And as you can see, it is pretty quick. It's not like crazy slow or anything like that. Now, ultimately, our goal, I guess, would be for the tier 2 is to make this regular mechanical essence, which is going to require some of our basic mechanical essence, which isn't going to be too hard for us to produce extra of. But we also need steel. Invar is pretty easy to obtain, and bronze is pretty easy to obtain as well. So these two are not an issue. It's steel. And steel leads us into another mod. That is going to be immersive engineering. And well, this is where things are going to get a little bit interesting. So immersive engineering is quite the long haul of a mod. And first of all, we are going to need to make ourselves a coke brick oven. And then we're going to need to end up making ourselves a blast furnace, which all of these things are pretty slow early on without any power. But definitely we want to get this going because it's an incredibly slow process. So this is going to require andesite alloy, and we're also going to need a hammer, some clay, and some bricks. So hopefully we can get enough of this. And I believe it actually makes a little more than you actually need as well, which is sort of the unfortunate part about it. Let's see. Coke brick. There we go. I'm going to need 27. I think it's exactly 27, right? And it should tell me here 27. Yep. So 27 is exactly what we need. Let's go ahead and also grab our hammer, because this is how we actually make the multi-blocks within this mod, which I haven't played around with immersive engineering in a while. So this is going to be kind of fun. So up top here, all we have to do is build up a little bit. I might actually end up putting this on stilts later. Oh, it ends up giving us an engineer hammer as well. But there we go. We've converted and turned this into a coke oven. And all we have to do now is just put coal in it, and it generates coal coke. So all of our coal that we have produced, we can go ahead and throw this in here. Now, I think it's a little bit better if we actually use blocks of coal. However, it does feel slower, but I think overall this is the better option, as you do get more creosote from it if you do it in block form. But as you can see, that's going to take a little bit of time. There's really no way of speeding this up until later on, if this version of immersive engineering actually has a better coke oven, which I'm not sure it does. I'll have to give this book a read. Now, I went ahead and made another one, but down the road, I think going the pyrolyzer route is probably going to be best once we have more power. This right here generates coal coke a bit quicker and a little bit more sustainably than going with these multi-blocks here. Now, you can export and import from these, and you can even remove the fluid from them via pipes and stuff like that. But believe me, it's a lot more of a pain to do it this way, but we're going to need this early on, it does seem. So let's get started with the next step, which is actually going to be a blast furnace. And this is going to require blast brick, which is very similar to what we just made. Now, you don't have to put this directly on top. I'm sort of putting this here right now because I'm thinking about future automation for this. And it may not even stay here for very long. But inside here, we will take the coal coke that we're giving here, and we put the coal coke in the bottom, and we're going to put the iron in the top, and this will make us steel early on. Of course, before we get into mechanism, then steel gets a little bit easier. But this is the route that I have to go through before we are able to get into mechanism. So I'm currently working on a little bit of a project right here. So I have some create that is now being separated out. And I was like, you know what? We really need to start focusing on this final piece here. Now, while I'm waiting on all of this stuff up here and steel to be worked out, which we should have, by the way, some blocks here, which is really nice. Grab that. Actually, we can go ahead and get the steel started. I think I have iron laying around as well, but I needed to grow some crops. So that's what I'm currently working on right there, is growing up some crops. Do I not have iron? Just, oh yeah, it's right. It's in here. Right. So anyways, back to this. I can go ahead and throw that in there and get steel produced, but, we have bone that's EMCable. So this is actually quite easy for me to get, some string, and I'm gonna need string for wool. Wool's actually going to be kind of important. So let me go ahead and throw this together, and let's see if I can't make this. So back into create, we need filters, and not just any filters. We are going to need these attribute filters. These are probably the coolest thing. They allow us to say specific things like if smeltable, right? Which is kind of cool. Filter only smeltable. So we don't have to do like individual items. We can straight up define an attribute, which, for example, in here, I'm going to add a reference item like this. Can be crushed, but also can be smelted. I think what I'm going to need, though, is to do multiple. Let's see. Yeah, we're going to set it to can be smelted, but we're going to do the opposite of it. So if it can be smelted, deny it. And that should allow us to have some lava in here, and the fans blowing and smelting the items, and they can only go in once they're complete. And then what I'm going to do is actually place these EMC links, 2 of them. We're going to have on one side, it's going to be doing iron and nickel, because we are going to need Invar. And we're going to have the other one doing copper and tin, which is going to be making the bronze on this side. And both of those items, once smelted, are going to go in the induction smelter and then be turned into their counterpart from that point. And then, of course, we are going to use some other machines. I just wanted to avoid having 4 more smelters that were just consuming power to be able to smelt, when we can just do it here. Now that I have all the filters set up, this should be kind of cool. Let's go ahead and just place these. These are going to deposit. You can see, and the items are going to set on here, and they will eventually stack. If possible, this might cause some problems. We might have to use some other upgrades for these. We may have to switch filters. I don't know. Hopefully once this is up and running, it will function. But I'm going to need my 2 buckets of lava that I have. This is all I have. That's why I did 2 separate lines. We should be able to make lava before long. But now with that running, it should smelt all of this stuff here. And it looks like we may have an overabundance of iron due to the way the line is set up. I wasn't expecting it to continue to push the items. That is a bit of an oversight on my end. But still, once it's pressed, we might have this working. Okay, it does seem to be working, which is nice. I'm glad that it's actually functioning. And we are getting Invar and we are getting bronze over here. Okay, so with it running, it should work fine. I mean, it's not costing a whole lot of EMC because of the amount that we have in backlog. So it doesn't hurt me to leave this running. So long as the items don't despawn, which I don't know if they will. But once this induction smelter fills up, I don't know what it's going to do with this slot. Now, there is an item that actually lets us block off this slot if need be. But the next step is going to be taking this and sending one. We need to have this turned into rods and this turned into gears from the looks of it here. Now, since I'm at this stage and we already have some steel being produced, I might as well take some of this extra invar. For some reason, we have overstacking. I don't even know how that happens, but I'm going to take some of this extra invar and we are going to use that in combination with some of these basic mechanical essences. And we should be able to get upgrades for our machines. And that is going to be some nice upgrades. I think the only thing I'm missing, right, is just glass. Glass or invar? Nope, it's just invar, right? No, redstone. Wow, I'm going to need a bit more redstone. Well, good thing that's pretty easy to come by. All I have to do now is just toss the redstone into our crusher, and we just get so much out of it, including all of this experience. So nice. Now, the first things I want to do with these are, well, of course, upgrade our power. This is 100% necessary, I think. So I don't have to make more dynamos. I can just keep upgrading our base power. Also, it might be a good idea for me to upgrade this machine and this machine, and then this press, and I guess that's, and then upgrade this press as well. I think that will speed up the operation of these two, as the brass or the copper rods are still the sort of bottleneck on that setup. Now, at the moment, I don't have a great way of automating steel. However, we do now have steel. And what I can do is take a little bit of this, at least to get our first couple of upgrades going. And I'll just go ahead and get that started to press. And then same with this. I now have the ability to pull from this, extract into this side, and that should make the bronze rods. This is then going to insert, and then we also need the extract happening over here to push the invar over here. That's going to make the invar gears, and that is almost it. And then we just have to take these basic mechanical essences. Now that we're producing a little bit more, we should now have just about everything we need. And all I'm going to do is break this, and then we've got to get the mixer going. And I was taking a look at the next page. There's a lot of really useful things in the next page as soon as we get this item, which is going to be a significant on our part. So, yeah, all we have to do is combine this inside of a mixer. No heating required or anything, and we should be able to just use the residual power that we have coming from here to supply that mixer. Now, when setting up the mixer, the interesting part about it is, well, it doesn't work off of this slow speed. You actually need it to be a little bit faster than the way this is spinning already off the water wheels. To do that, I'm just going to add a gear, and that gets it spinning just a little bit faster. And you'll know you've done it when you get the achievement for it spinning faster. And then all I have to do is get a cog up here on the top and connect into that shaft that's spinning just a tiny bit faster. And there we go. And it'll tell you, if you're wearing the goggles, it'll tell you if you don't have enough speed on it. If it says nothing at all, then you know it has worked. And now we just need to pipe all of the ingredients to this thing. Yeah, I actually might move this back, so I have a little bit of an extra space to be able to do that, because I am going to need access to the back here, I think. Now, I'm not quite certain how well this is going to work, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and craft the first set. To do that, let's see, I'm going to need to grab a couple of these. And I should, hopefully I can walk on here. Well, got too much stuff around. I can't get around it. What I'm going to need to do is toss the base ingredients in. So I will toss the bronze. I will toss this, this, and this. That should be all of the items. And then I can go ahead and set a filter on the recipe. And then hopefully it doesn't matter too much, because I noticed that these cables do some wonky things when interacting with the mixer here. But right there, there we go. Do we need anything specific? We just need to press one of these down and we get access to this. So let's get this into the multi-servo press and we're going to unlock all kinds of new gear. So that's going to be pretty nice. So I placed that in there and notice I did go ahead and put this back. But I'm thinking I can just go ahead and say, hey, just start sending the items in here. I'm thinking that's going to work. So just go ahead and send it just like it's doing. And then on this side, I will make sure and do the same thing. I tried the stack limiter. It doesn't seem like the stack limiter is actually functioning, which is kind of unfortunate. But there it goes. And then that should be sending any new invar that it gets as soon as it gets it anyways. Now, once it gets through all of this, yeah, it just seems like this might have some flaws. For example, when that's full of iron, there's nowhere else for the iron to go, and then it just clogs things up. I don't know why it's doing that, unfortunately. Yeah, I'll be ready to get into new pipes already because these pipes tend to spit items out, which is a problem without the higher upgrades in them. So I think we're actually going to be moving right into this. So it does say we need to have a piece of steel and a piece of coal coke. Now, the thing is, we don't have coal coke because we did coal coke blocks, but there is our coal coke. And we have now completed that section and completed the iron. And that leads us into mechanism, which gives us a configurator and allows us to get into basic pipes with mechanism, which is probably going to be a better solution to this. Now, funny enough, the basic logistical transporters, which are mechanisms pipes, they actually utilize the pretty pipes. So we can now connect these in, and they don't have a filter because they don't actually spit the items everywhere. However, you do need the configurator to set this to pull, and then that should just insert right into that. Nice. So now, once we have all the ingredients and all the required items that go into here, things should start working a bit more smoothly. Now, one of the other pieces of the puzzle, well, actually, is right back here. And I need to route this, I think, into this main pipe here. And then as soon as I get this routed in, we should have the basic essences flooding into this as well. And that is definitely one of the things we're going to need. And then we're going to have to send everything into a multi-servo press. So all we have to do is pop this in. Boop. And I do have the steel going into here. I think now that I have the pipes, I think I can now probably somewhat automate this. However, I am going to need something that's crushing coal and making sure it provides this with coal. So we've almost come full circle because there's the regular mechanical that we need. And all we have to do is put this on top. And that is going to send the compressed version back up here. And we should be off to the races. That should give us even more EMC for all that we're putting in here. Now, I will admit, this definitely is flawed. 100% it's flawed. Because once this completely fills up with copper, it no longer allows any more copper or any more of the tin to be produced, which is kind of a bummer and kind of a problem. I almost wonder if I should switch it around so that way the high quantity stuff is the other way around, and that might fix it. This might actually solve the issue, I think, as we do end up using, I think, more of the other. I don't know. Now, I have definitely tried out some other options, but I don't think any of the options are going to necessarily work the way I was hoping it was going to work. I think I'd have to have this belt line much longer, and I would need to be providing it with the exact mix of items, such as 3 iron and 1 nickel. So I'd need 3 separate iron and 3 separate nickel being dropped at once. I can't control any of that with the pipe, unfortunately. So I'd kind of be stuck if that's going on. So yeah, eventually this will back up. But for now, I think this is working. Now I do have another problem. I need to make a filter for this multi-servo press, because it's not actually pulling out the item that I want. It's pulling out the other stuff. Which is unfortunate because that is not what I need. Now, to make the filter, it does require us to have some silver and a few other things, but we should be able to make all of this. So let's just take a look at a filter. And what kind of filter am I talking about? Well, we can actually define filters. However, we're going to need signalium, which is going to require 3 copper, silver, and redstone. So if I just grab a bit of everything, I just have so much on me at the moment. If I just grab a bit of silver, which I have the silver, redstone, and copper, I think that's all we need for the induction smelter. That should give us signalium. Huh. Goodness. A lot going on today for sure. So now with the filter installed, all I have to do is set the actual essence that I only want entering into this machine. Make sure it's set to an allow list. And now the machine itself is actually filtered, which is pretty darn cool. Now with all of that done, I think next episode, we're going to have to dive into the full automation of the steel. And maybe it'll get a little bit easier. Who knows? I don't know if the mechanism in this pack was changed in any ways, but I think getting steel that way would definitely be a quicker method. So we have it technically automated, kind of wonkily automated. Later on down the road, it will be 100% automated. And I think building is going to happen pretty darn soon. I'm pretty excited. According to our quests and our guide and everything else, we are looking pretty good. And look at that. We get 16 more of these. That just adds to our EMC pool. And we already have recuperated most of the EMC that we put into this. Wow. Guys, this has so far been an incredibly fun pack. And I can't believe we've already made it through the tier 2 in episode 2. Wow, my goodness. Guys, if you have enjoyed thus far, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and also give this video a huge thumbs up. Also, comment down below if there's a different way you would have done it. I always love hearing what you guys have to say, even if that means roasting me heavily in the comments. I do appreciate you guys a lot. Now, of course, it is time to thank the supporter of today's video. And that huge thanks is going to have to go to none other than Widener. Thank you so much for your amazing support, by the way, over on YouTube, becoming a YouTube member. And if you guys are interested in becoming a member, all you have to do is check that join button down below next to the subscribe button and become a member today. You get access to all kinds of amazing perks over on the Discord. And there's many other ways to support, whether that is on Discord itself or on Patreon or even on Twitch when I do live stream, which is usually Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays over there. So be sure to check that out. And of course, guys, I thank you so very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. And yet again, as always, thanks for watching.